Let's talk about something we've all felt. That feeling of having a mind that just refuses to switch off. It's one of the most common and honestly frustrating parts of being human.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's quiet, there's no real problem right in front of you, but inside your head, your mind is running an absolute marathon, replaying conversations, imagining futures that probably won't ever happen.
But here's a thought. What if this wasn't some kind of flaw in your personality? What if it's not a quirk at all? The psychology behind this suggests that overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's actually your brain's ancient, hardwired protection plan, trying its best to keep you safe.
Okay, so let's dive into the why. Why does our mind get caught in these endless loops? Well, it all boils down to a really powerful, really fundamental instinct.
And here's the absolute core of it. We live in a world that is packed with unknowns, and our brains, well, they crave certainty. So your brain thinks that if it can just run through every single possible scenario, it can prepare for anything. It's basically trying to wrestle back control from the natural chaos of life. In fact, psychology has a name for a big part of this process. It's called rumination. That's when you find yourself endlessly replaying past events. And, it feels so productive, like you're analyzing it, maybe solving something, but in reality, it's just keeping your mind stuck in a moment that's long gone.
So how does this protective instinct actually play out in our day-to-day lives? Well, we can actually break it down into 5 really clear, super recognizable patterns. Let's walk through them together.
All right, first up. The classic mental chess game. You know this one. People who are prone to overthinking are constantly trying to stay 1, 2, even 10 steps ahead. They're gaming out every possible outcome for a conversation, a work meeting, or even just a simple text message.
And the motivation here is all about feeling prepared. But the problem is, life is fundamentally unpredictable, right? So this constant future planning often backfires, and instead of feeling in control, it just leads to feeling totally overwhelmed.
Okay, number 2.
I bet you've been here before. Someone sends a short text reply, or maybe their tone of voice changes just a little bit. For an overthinking mind, those aren't just small details. Oh no, they become huge pieces of evidence that need to be analyzed, sparking all these questions like, did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me?
And let's be really clear here. This isn't about being dramatic. It's the brain's urgent, desperate attempt to fill in the blanks. Whenever there's a gap in information, that protective mind rushes in to create a story. Any story, just to make sense of the ambiguity.
The third pattern is this. And this is where that idea of rumination really comes to life. The mind just gets latched onto a past conversation, or a mistake you made, or some awkward moment, and it replays it over and over and over. And it's not because you enjoy it, it's because some part of your brain is still trying to figure it out, to find a better outcome.
I mean, that really hits home, doesn't it? The event is completely done. Everyone else has moved on. But for the overthinker, their mind is still right there, stuck in that mental loop, trying to fix something that's already in the past.
Now, let's look at the fourth side. This one really gets to the very heart of the entire issue. At the end of the day, overthinking is deeply, deeply tied to being uncomfortable with the unknown. Not knowing what someone else is thinking or not knowing what's going to happen next, it just feels incredibly unsettling.
And here's the great paradox of it all. The attempt to find clarity by just thinking more, it actually just creates more doubt. Instead of finding any real answers, the mind ends up just generating more and more questions, digging itself deeper into that feeling of uncertainty.
And finally, the fifth sign.
So even after a choice has been made, the second guessing kicks in almost immediately. Was that the right move? Oh man, I should have picked the other option, shouldn't I? This isn't a sign that someone is incapable of making a decision.
It's because their mind can see too many possibilities, too many potential consequences for every single choice. When you give that much weight to every single alternative, it's almost impossible for any one decision to feel 100% right. So, as we've seen through all 5 of these signs, it all ties back to this one central conflict: the mind's desperate, ongoing quest for control in a world that, let's be honest, offers very little of it.
You see, the hope that's driving all this mental energy is to finally find answers, to get that certainty you're craving. But the reality, the actual result of all that overthinking, is that it just manufactures more questions and more uncertainty. It ends up feeding the very anxiety it was trying to solve in the first place.
So where does that leave us? What's the big takeaway from all this? I mean, what it was supposed to do with this new understanding? Well, the answer is simpler and maybe even more powerful than you might think.
Here is the single most important insight. This isn't about fighting your mind or trying to force it to be quiet. It's about awareness. Just being able to recognize the pattern, to say to yourself, there's my brain doing its protection thing again. That is the first and most powerful step you can take. The moment you can see the mechanism at work, it starts to lose its grip on you.
So, we've kind of laid out the blueprint of a protective, overthinking mind. Now that you can see these patterns a little more clearly in yourself or maybe in others, the real question is, what are you going to do with this new clarity?